We're going to talk a little bit about influencers now. Specifically, we have a panel coming up, and we're going to talk about how to use influencers for conversion. So influencers, you follow them, you watch the products that they are using, you consume their content and their endorsements. And our 2020 panel is going to chat about their experiences of working with brands and the tactics that they're using in order to increase conversion. So I'd like to introduce my good friend, Shannon Gallagher. She's the founder and leader of The Flock at Influencer Logic, which is an educational consultancy. They help brands and influencers work better together. She holds a master's degree from McMaster's Communications Management program, and she is one of Canada's leading influencer academics. Shannon also teaches social media to public relations students at the Centennial College in Toronto. She is an amazing person. We met at a conference I guess it was probably about 6 to 8 months ago, immediately connected. And, you know, I'm just so happy that you can be here today. Thanks again, and over to Shannon.
Thanks. And I feel the same, Steph. And, you know, it's sort of, it's great that this has been a digital conference that had to go online. And you guys are rocking it so far. So as Steph said, we're going to be talking about conversions, but in light of everything going on and talking with our panelists, we decided that we would also address the COVID-19 situation and kind of what influencers are doing right now in light of all of that. So as Steph mentioned, I'm an educational consultant and I help brands work more harmoniously with influencers. Normally I'm in people's offices, but I have a feeling a lot more of this digital stuff is in my near future. And so I just wanted to say, you know, we can do a 50-50 split on this, but I just wanted to put it out there, put it in the chat if you'd like us to concentrate on COVID and what influencers are doing for the entire time. But while you guys are doing that, I'm going to introduce our panel of influencers who are going to help us get answers to many of these questions today. So first off, we have Jasmine Shannon, and you can follow her at Lemons for Days. So I would say following her means pass the parenting, don't pass the pasta because gluten. She's mom goals, health goals, and she has built a tremendous community of over 33,000 followers on Instagram. Jasmine's also an almost author. Is that right, Jasmine?
That's right. Book is coming out in the spring. Hold on to launch parties.
Yeah, exactly. All right, next we have Kaylee Reed of Hermana Agency. And so Kaylee's not just an influencer, she's actually founded her own influencer agency that helps brands and influencers find a roadmap to success. And she's kind of our TikTok expert with 21,000 followers over there. And she also has at Self-Care Sundays, which I'm sure is really popping right now with all the self-care going on in the moment. Anyway, busy lady, welcome. All right, next we have Rachel Anthony of Almost Famous. And yeah, most recently you were living your best life in Paris, but I guess that plane's grounded. And she's got a lot going on from her blog, franklyray.com. She has 17,000 followers on Instagram. Again, it's Almost Famous 2 Fs. And she's also the brains behind Poolside Digital, which is also got its own podcast. And I don't know where she finds her time, but in her spare time, she also runs at Almost Fit, a fitness wellness inspiration account on Instagram. So welcome, Rachel. All right. Okay, so it's the elephant in the room, the digital room. Social media has become a connector amid the uncertainty of the past few weeks. And maybe Cameron from Twitter, if he's on the line, he can confirm, but I read this morning that coronavirus is the second most used hashtag in 2020. People are sharing their experiences, they're sharing information, and even the WHO has encouraged sort of a viral sensation, hashtag hand wash challenge. Has anyone done it?
Not yet.
Not yet.
No.
You haven't put that out there? Lots of people are doing it. And there's also been a lot on social media where, you know, we see people stocking up at grocery stores, like the toilet paper apocalypse, and people offering advice of what to do when we're canceling everything. So in light of this, what role are influencers playing, and in terms of promoting small businesses that might be having a rough time and a rough go right now, giving people a laugh, amplifying crucial information, and the list goes on. So first of all, to our panelists, how are you all doing?
It's been a
Kaylee,
while.
you want to start off?
Yeah, I'll start. It's been pretty wild. So obviously, any kind of travel or hospitality related partnerships, any events, this is even an example, has been canceled, put on pause. That's a big part of the influencer industry, is the travel sector of it. Thankfully, I'm much more focused on e-commerce, fashion, beauty, skincare, that kind of world. But I know a lot of other agents and influencers who have been seriously impacted, and literally, all of their clients have dried up for the next little while as everybody puts things on pause. So there's a lot of positives, I think, that we can be looking forward to, because as we know, everybody's attention is now online and turning to digital, which I think provides a really big opportunity for brands. But as we're going to talk about today, it's really about that balance of being sensitive in how we post and how do we take advantage of these opportunities, while also spreading some positivity and not just constantly talking about the thing that everybody's hearing 24/7 now.
Yes, and we'll try not to be too much on that. How are you, Jasmine? How are you doing?
We're doing well. I mean, I have 2 small kids at home, and so that's been the biggest challenge for me. Both my husband and I, well, everyone's working from home, but we run our own small businesses from home, and so finding that balance between having the kiddos here and it's kind of switching off. We kind of take shifts. That's been our biggest challenge, but I have started a daily theme with my kids that I'm sharing on my social media channels, and they, I don't know, it kind of brings a little bit of positivity, a little bit of lightness to this quarantine that we're all in. So what we've been doing is picking a theme for each day. I have my kids pick a theme. Yesterday was pirates. The day before was animals. Today is focusing on Calgary as a community. And the day is dedicated to that theme. So right now I shooed my husband and my kids out of the house to go on a little scavenger hunt. They're staying in the car and they just have to spot landmarks around the city, and they get a treat for each one they spot. So little things like that. And I share them on my social media channels, and people are really enjoying either watching or doing.
Great. And Rachel, what about you?
Yeah, it's good. Like everybody here, we work from home usually. So I think being at home, we have how we tend to work is good, but not being able to go out and go to coffee shops and go to fitness classes and have the community that we're used to having from working from home, I think has been hard. But I think it's been good to be connected on social media and then share, like you said, the local part of it. So most of my blog and Instagram and everything has been focused on local since I started. And so I think this is an optimal time to be able to share and continue sharing people that need the help in the local community. It's hard to tag everybody and share everybody, but I think like Kaylee mentioned, we don't want to keep talking about it. And so taking the more positive, like how can we help people and what can you do besides, like, you don't need to stock up on your own stuff. You need to help people that this is the small business is their job. And so social media has been a great platform to stay connected with people, but then spread the positive vibes. Because I think even you notice if you get off your phone and you don't feel as panicked because you're not being bombarded with the messages over and over again. So I think it's our responsibility as influencers with bigger platforms to share the other part of this, like the silver lining that we're all at home and you can work on your mental health at home, and you can work on your physical health at home, and all these things you can do at home. And I think that's what we should be using our platforms. And Jasmine's doing a great job. I don't have kids, so I don't need to worry about that, but she's doing a great job at showcasing how like a mom doesn't need to like lose her mind with her kids at home. So I think that we're all doing a great job, and that's really what we're here to do.
Totally. And I just should say, if you hear two little ones screaming in the background, those are mine. But I've really been enjoying seeing those positive messages from influencers in my feed and helping me sort of see the silver lining, as you say. Now, I'm sure your clients are feeling a little bit rough at the moment. Are they seeing a silver lining? And how are you guys supporting them at this unprecedented time? And maybe Kaylee might be a good one to start here from an agency perspective, because you sort of see both sides.
Yeah, so on the brand perspective, for sure, we are having most of our brands put things on pause, not canceling things entirely, but I think specifically the past couple days and this week where we're seeing so many announcements, so many people adjusting to just like completely new way of life, losing their jobs. Like there's so many things and changes happening right now that this is not the time for a brand to be launching a new product or to be releasing a new marketing campaign. It just comes off as like really insensitive. And we've seen, you know, every corporation posting their CEO's message of what they're doing for coronavirus. And I think some people are a little bit like, okay, we get it. Like everybody's putting things on pause now. But I think what we've been advising our influencers to, just for like temporarily a few days, is like, let's hold off on the pitching right now. I think that we're going to be in this for a while, given kind of the circumstances and the situation. And so this week and last week have been really intense and felt really intense. And I think as soon as people kind of start to settle into this as a new normal of working from home, we've adjusted, you know, there's a little bit more stability around certain things, then we can kind of ramp up again on the social. And I think, as I mentioned before, there's going to be a lot of opportunity on digital in the next few weeks, months, for retailers, for example, that might not already have a digital presence or who maybe have an e-commerce store they're just starting. Like now is the time to really focus all of that effort on digital. It's just a matter of being cautious around, okay, let's not be announcing big things while Trudeau is announcing like all of these funds. Like we want to be sensitive of when we're coming out with these different campaigns. So that's kind of where we're seeing things right now. And you're probably going to hear my cat going crazy as well. So apologies for that.
So, and Jasmine, how have you dealt with this with any clients that were, you know, in the next 2 weeks, in the short term, but, you know, sounds like we might be looking at like the next 3 months. How are you addressing that with them?
I mean, this last week, this week, for example, I had, you know, content already created from maybe a month ago that was supposed to be pushed out last week, this week, next week. And I've just asked all of my clients to put a hold on it. Hopefully we can salvage those campaigns because some of them are timely and it's not going to make sense to push them out in a couple of weeks or months. For the time being, we've postponed everything. I have 2 clients that are wanting to stick to the guidelines, and I have to manage that because, as Kaylee was mentioning, this is the time to be sensitive right now. And you know, people, when you're pushing out products that are not essential to our health and safety, you're not going to get the same reaction from your audience, and it might be a little bit bitter. So.
Yeah, you don't want to suffer from a backlash.
Mm-hmm.
And some brands who took sort of a funny tone at first are really got a lot of heat for that. But you know, it was hard to see where we were going to be at a week ago when all this really started to come to a head. And what about you, Rachel? How are you addressing this? What should brands consider?
I think that for campaigns that were supposed to come out or that have been in the works, like Jasmine said, her content's already created, so it was already done. But I've had a couple campaigns that we've postponed them, but depending on how long, we've talked about just adjusting the content. So if one of them was talking about like being in a neighborhood and like showcasing how you're connecting with your neighbors, and so that can be turned into, this is a time that we need to support everybody and be kind. So we're seeing how long we have to postpone it, but then we're also ready to just adjust what the campaign is if we need to do that. the content that's created is tough because there's snow on the ground. So like the photos have snow. So again, that's a thing that you have to think about. It's like we only can postpone it for so long. Otherwise, we're just going to have to redo the content anyways. And then I had a campaign with like an alcohol beverage company, and they sent it, and instead of going forward with the campaign, they're like, now you can just share that you're sharing it like with your partner at home, and like you're using this time to connect with each other. So brands can, if you can, like if it's flexible, you can just adjust what you're doing to it to, like we've mentioned, turn it onto that positive side, instead of, like Jasmine mentioned, selling things that aren't necessary or telling people to go out into the public area. So just adjusting that content if you're able to, and if the influencer is able to as well.
Right. And on that note, like with social distancing, self-isolation, online purchases are really being encouraged as a way to sort of stay in, stay home, stay safe. And so what opportunity then do you guys as a group, do you feel there might be for businesses who offer these types of solutions? Like, I think like meal delivery, Amazon is going crazy in Toronto. They said that they're looking to hire 1,000 temporary workers for delivery. So how can influencers kind of be part of communicating these services that could help consumers through this challenging time?
I know like a lot of local businesses they've been forced to do that. So, my favorite coffee shop here in Calgary, they never did a delivery service, and their online platform for, purchasing coffee beans and coffee mugs and everything was not, it really wasn't existent, but this has forced them to do that. And I'm seeing a ton of small businesses, do takeout where they've never done that before. And so people are being forced to do that. And over the last week, I feel like the underlying theme of all of this is compassion and kindness and helping. And I've seen so many influencers just do it out of the kindness of their hearts and just saying, so-and-so is offering this, this restaurant is now offering takeout, go check out small businesses. So I feel like if you have a small business and you're going to be offering a new online or digital format of your service or product, let one of us know. Reach out to an influencer, because right now we're so overly willing to help. So that would be my
no, I think that that's a really good point, which is that, if you have those relationships either existing or new, maybe now is a time to help sort of target locally. And I mean, all of you ladies are in Calgary, so we're lucky there, but there's, across the country, there's groups of influencers that could be useful in that. That's my little one. Okay. And how does anyone else have any thoughts on the kind of home delivery area, and how that might be something that influencers could tackle?
Yeah, well, just a quick thought around, adapting to change. And I think every business in every sector is going to feel this now. We're going to be forced to figure it out. And the businesses that have the ability to adapt and the means to figure it out and change things. And even if it means, you're a local restaurant, people are never coming into your store anymore, but you're able to offer delivery. Or if you're a retailer and now you're opening your e-commerce store, this ability to adapt is going to be so huge right now. And when we're thinking long term, 6 months out, when all of this is passed, now you have that separate stream of income that is going to make sense and help you like further build your business in the future. So it feels like we're adjusting to so much right now and making these big sacrifices. But I think long-term, the businesses that are able to figure that out are going to be thriving even more 6 months down the road, when they now have these additional channels and these additional partnerships or what have you. In terms of influencers, helping in this area, I saw a really interesting call yesterday from the Ad Council in the US, which put out a call for any influencer to be a part of a voluntary campaign. They partnered with the CDC, providing factual information and exactly what influencers can share and what is safe and appropriate and informative for influencers to share. Because another problem we've seen is people for example, Vanessa Hudgens yesterday,
Oh gosh, wasn't that
went
awful?
off the rails on a live stream, basically, you know, really dismissing the issue and being like, it's not a big deal, you know, if people are going to die, they're going to die. And I think like they're like, people have these huge followings, they need to be providing the factual right information. And so I was really pleased to see the ad council sharing those messages for influencers yesterday with, you know, agencies across the US of here's what your influencers can and should be sharing in partnership with the CDC, so you know it's correct. I haven't seen anything similar in Canada yet, but I think that's going to be a big part. Like, influencers are the new media sources for young people. I mean, I still watch CBC and have the CBC news updates, but a lot of people younger than us are only getting their news from Instagram.
Getting their news through smartphones, Facebook streams, all that kind of stuff for sure. It would be really great and helpful if you're willing to share those guidelines. We can share them afterwards. Christina, I'm sure would be happy to. Just a reminder, I see that Christina has said, remember to ask your questions in the Q&A for Great Spa prize pack up for grabs. So think of your questions as we're going along. We're coming to you soon. Now, the travel industry was brought up a little bit earlier. They're seeing just, I mean, a total halt. This is going to be a huge thing. And, you know, we hope that it'll be over soon. I was really hoping to be there in Banff with you guys. And I'm sure, you know, hopefully we'll be able to get back to that normal. I was thinking of 9/11, and after that we were focused on safety, security, but this threat is almost invisible. And it's a crisis of confidence. So how do you see influencers playing a role in the recovery of the travel industry? You know, do you have travel clients that you are working with, and how you're advising the move, you know, moves forward? It needs to be quite gentle, I'm sure, at the moment, but where do you see this going? Anybody?
I don't have any travel clients, so I will let someone else answer.
I've just canceled my 4th travel trip.
Oh no.
Actually, I shouldn't say canceled, but I postponed. They've obviously been very understanding. I think in terms of recovery, I mean, we don't have a date that we're going to travel again because nobody knows. And when the time comes, be it 5, 10 months from now, maybe over a year, my hesitation jumping back into those with those same clients is that I don't know if influencer marketing will be at the top of their mind, because they're still going to be picking up the pieces. Yeah. So hopefully we can play a role. They'll allow us to play a role, but I know that other things are priority. I don't know if marketing is up there with them. So time will tell. I do have faith because traveling is my favorite thing, especially with the kiddos. But I feel like once the time comes, our role will just to make travel less scary for people. And I'm happy to do that.
And as you guys got back, or going back to what we were saying at the beginning, it's like finding those moments of like kind of seeing the positives or seeing the silver linings. You know, maybe we'll be seeing more of our own country in the short term. You know, those might be ways that we can restore confidence, get people back in the swing of, you know, staying in a hotel and those kinds of things. So I think we're going to shift gears to the conversion part of our discussion. We've got a couple of questions that we wanted to get to, as we know that there are those who would like to hear about that. So we're going to talk about just ways in which we can help enhance conversions. And so the first we want to talk about, it's a little bit tricky and it's a little bit controversial, but links and codes are two ways that we see brands tracking the conversions. And so from your perspective, are these helpful?
Yeah, I feel like we all have something to say on this. Jasmine brought up something really important when she was talking about, influencers getting back into travel after all of this, which is that influencer marketing is not necessarily seen as like the most essential marketing. Influencers are very much top of funnel brand awareness. And so I think a mistake that a lot of brands make when they try to use discount codes or affiliate codes or links to track the ROI of their influencer marketing efforts is not realizing that an influencer's main priority is brand awareness with their audience. And you're not necessarily hiring influencers as salespeople, especially if you're doing a one-time collaboration. I think it's really overly optimistic to expect a lot of sales from one post, especially when you really break it down and think about like how much time people are spending on their Instagram feed. If you're paying an influencer for one Instagram post, maybe a couple stories, and expecting to see a ton of sales from it, somebody's seeing that post for maybe 5 seconds in their feed if they're actually reading the caption. And people generally are not taking action on sales purchases from seeing something once. I think any of us who have been in marketing or advertising school or education of any kind, that it takes like 7+ times for a consumer to see something before truly making a purchasing decision. And so I think that's the mistake that a lot of brands make when trying to track the ROI with these codes and affiliate links, and seeing no results, and then thinking that influencer marketing is not working. Where I do see those things working really well is with long-term partnerships. By long-term, I mean like 6 to 12-month partnerships, where the brand is very engaged, has a great relationship with the influencer. The influencer is posting about the brand or product multiple times. Their audience becomes familiar with the brand and product. Then they know that the influencer truly believes and supports it because they see them posting about it multiple times. And after they've seen it multiple times, then they're going to make a purchase. But so many people are going to see something, remember the brand, maybe forget to use the code. They might go purchase it later, but it's just so hard to fully track that influencer's impact by using those codes.
Well, thank you so much for explaining, how that could be used and where it should be used, but also that we shouldn't have false hope in it. That it's not the be all and end all solution for sure. Does anyone have anything to add there?
No, I think that was beautifully put.
That was that. Yeah, I really think that you covered that well. So in terms of, we hear a lot about tracking the customer decision journey, right? So, and what tools and metrics are you guys using most often to track the clicks generated and the actions taken from your content?
I think that something that I love mentioning once I am working with a client are Instagram stories and how underrated they can be, because people don't like losing their place when they're scrolling. And so if you're asking somebody to exit out of your photo and to go click the link in your bio or go type this in another browser, people don't like doing that. It takes too much time. It's too many steps. So with Insta stories, you can add that swipe up and people can go directly to your company's sales page, grab the product or have a look. I think that's so underused right now. So I would, and then the influencer can give you those stats. They can say, this is how many people clicked on your website. This is how many people, went to your Instagram page and whatnot. So I find that to be so valuable. And of course you can track website clicks for, that week, see how that post kind of correlated to website clicks. And then Google Analytics on my blog once I work with a client to work on a blog post. But I find that the Instagram stories are very underused and they're usually cheaper.
That's a great point. Rachel, anything to add with tracking?
I agree completely with what Jasmine said. And the swipe up, if you are able to do it on your stories or with the influencers you're working, it's super interesting to see how many people swipe up. I also like to just see how many people click on the tag, which is something you can see in all of the analytics, but it's just interesting. Even if it's not a sponsored story, I just like to see like, are people clicking on things that I'm tagging? Like it's just like a personal analytics. Then I can also share with brands if they're interested in seeing that, because lots of brands will ask for screenshots of your analytics before they work with you. So I like to just like keep track to see if people are actually engaging with my stories rather than just like flipping through. But everything that Jasmine mentioned with blog analytics and Instagram insights, that's usually where I get my information from.
Okay, great.
Also,
I wanted to just talk about,
Shannon.
yes?
I was going to just mention saves on posts and shares.
Yes,
And having
saves are so 2020. I love it. Okay, now the post purchase decision, I just wanted to chat about this because so much of the time we put the content out and then we run the report or what have you, and we don't really talk about kind of, you know, the feedback you might get a couple months later, weeks later. So what kind of sentiment could you track kind of for brands long term, showing sort of, you know, when people have made decisions? I know, Jasmine, you had a story about a vacation that you wanted to share.
Yeah, I think back to Kaylee's point earlier, it really depends how much I'm focusing my attention on gathering that information to give it to a brand on the timeline that you're working with. So if it's a one-time post, both sides of it, like the interest is much lower. So if somebody has something great or negative to say about the product, okay, whatever, but I don't really have an investment in that in the future. But if it's a long-term relationship, so for example, Air Transat I've worked with for going on 2 years now, and because I really value that partnership and we have a great relationship, I keep track of what my followers are doing. So some of them will share screenshots from the same resort that I was at a few months earlier, and they'll say, this is so great, because this is not something the brand might not be able to track that, right? Because I don't have a code that I'm giving people to, you know, save money off their flight or the hotel. And so I gather that information and I like to give it to the brand just to keep that long-term relationship going. And then I also keep track of negative comments, not to, you know, make the brand feel bad, but just a piece of awareness. As just, especially my following, I have a lot of granola moms. And so if I partner with a brand that's not 100% natural, I get a lot of comments on it, and some are not so nice. So I like to gather those comments up and give them to the brand, and they can do what they see fit. Yeah.
Okay. Now, we hear a lot about the big bad algorithm, and I just wanted to touch on that. We're going to do this question and then we're going to move into our questions from online. So in terms of how can influencers and brands work together to beat the platform's algorithms at its own game? So Kaylee, I want to actually get your thoughts on TikTok's algorithm, because I know there's some interesting stuff around that.
Yeah, I love TikTok, and I know TikTok is super foreign to a lot of brands and just anybody over like 25, basically. I'm 26 now, so me included. Basically, I started my TikTok journey just a few months ago in November because I started seeing a lot of larger brand clients seeking specifically TikTok influencers. And the reason why TikTok is so great right now is the algorithm is almost opposite of the Instagram algorithm. So on TikTok, you can post content, you can have 0 followers, and you can have a video go viral with 100,000 views, just based on how the algorithm feeds content to users on the app and feeds content to users that are not following you. It's basically like Instagram 7 years ago, where the explore page was like really where you would find new people to follow. And now, you know, Instagram, you're really only looking at the content of people that you follow. Well, TikTok is now that. TikTok basically organically boosts anybody's content to go viral. So if you kind of have an understanding of the platform, the algorithm really works in your favor, unlike Instagram. And what I love about TikTok is being able to utilize that viral ability to, one, reach local audiences, because based on your location, the app shows content specifically to a local audience before it shows it to other audiences. So we've seen a lot of positive, like viral videos for small Calgary businesses that we've done. You know, anybody, if you're in Calgary and you're posting something about Calgary, people in Calgary are going to see that content on like Instagram. The other reason I love TikTok is it pushes new followers to your other platforms. So Shannon mentioned I have, 25,000 followers on TikTok now. I've seen about 10% of that convert to my Instagram audience. So around 2,000, 3,000 followers from TikTok going to Instagram. I think a lot of influencers and brands are feeling very frustrated with Instagram, feeling like they're doing everything right and that they can't get more traction. But I think the real key is focusing on some of your channels outside of Instagram, whether that's a podcast, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, and driving that same audience and engagement and interest back to like within your platforms, and really just continuing to provide really valuable, entertaining content, not just fluff. So like quality content over consistency.
Yeah, no, I know that TikTok has really said like it's a creators network, and the content is king. What about if you just can't beat the algorithm? Is boosting something we should be doing?
Definitely. Yeah, if a brand has the ability to push some money towards boosting, I've seen great results from that. So of brands. So if you have the ability to put a couple $100 behind that post to push it out, you're also creating an ad on top of what you've already paid the influencer for. So you already have the content, you're just pushing it out to more people and you're using that as an asset to your company. And I've seen awesome results.
Okay.
Shannon, I may jump in with some audience questions.
Yeah. I was just saying, let's move over to audience questions. So do you want to, or should I go from what's in the chat?
I will, I got a couple in the Q&A
chat
here. I know Sarah Gray, you had an awesome question. So I'm going to hit my magic on the air button if you are ready.
Perfect.
Here you go, Sarah.
Welcome, Sarah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. So I work at the YWCA in Banff. And as I said in my question, we do fairly often get a kind of flood of messages in our inboxes of people looking to partnership, usually in exchange for obviously a free night's accommodation or different things. This is something that we've not really found the capacity to be able to do in the past, but I was just curious if any of you had worked with nonprofits or social enterprises and how that relationship could look.
Yeah, I've done work with nonprofits and social enterprises in the past, and for us, the two key things that we found to make those partnerships really successful is one, making sure that those influencers are truly invested in the messaging of the nonprofit. They actually, care about that relationship. They're not just doing it for a free night stay, which, unfortunately, a lot of people just pitch 100 different places to stay, and that's all they really care about. But when you do find people that genuinely have an interest in what your business, nonprofit, social enterprise is doing, it becomes a lot easier to build meaningful relationships with people and be able to do things in a lot of times in a cheaper way because those influencers are very passionate about what you're doing. The second thing I'll say is we find a lot of success with micro influencers. So anywhere, micro now can be anywhere from 1,000 to 50,000 followers, but we find the sweet spot around 10,000 where they do have enough influence that their post can make an impact, but because they're still so small, their audience really does take their words, they just trust them more, and they do tend to have more of an impact with their smaller audiences. So I think, Jasmine and Rachel are, I would say, like bigger micro influencers, but I think a lot of brands want to work with people that have, only 100,000 plus followers. And what we see is, especially for those really niche passion projects, those smaller micro influencers are going to be the best bet for like creating what you actually want to create and have that message resonate with their audience.
Okay, I have another audience question from, I always have to scroll through this list to find people.
Also, what about Greg's? Where do I find relevant influencers? This is a big one that I get a lot. And there's lots of, you know, I guess you'd say tools that you can use, but then there's also ways in which you can just, you know, do the old fashioned digging and research, right? So do you guys want to talk about Greg's question?
Yeah, so finding influencers is probably like 50% of my job when working with clients, finding the right people. As you mentioned, there's a lot of tools, platforms, resources that you can sign up for that influencers have profiles on, and you basically get all of their analytics there. The downside to a lot of those platforms is they're really pricey. Some of them as much as like $25,000 per quarter just to be on a platform to find influencers. So your second best bet then is to one, either work with like a consultant or somebody that just you can work with one-on-one and really understand what you need to be looking for and then go out and do it. Or literally going through hashtags. So hashtag Calgary influencer, hashtag YYC blogger, hashtag dog blogger, like whatever your niche is, going through hashtags, looking through location tags also, and looking through your competitors or your own page if influencers have, you know, posted about you before, influencers have posted about your competitors, and just finding people through that. People Map is also a really amazing tool that's only like $20 a month and can really, like, that's basically my number one tool for finding influencers, People Map.
People Map. Thank you. Great. And yeah, all of those things, you know, that's how I help clients as well when they're building their rosters for the first time, is actually to do that online sleuthing. So does that help? Oh, Greg's not on the call. Sorry.
Let's do
Greg,
one more question, Shannon.
Okay. Okay. I wanted to get back to, so this is a really good question and I think timely and I think important. So, Marizena Ascara, I'm so sorry. I might have just really wrecked your name there. She says, hi, you said that coronavirus is the second most popular hashtag. Would it be seen as insensitive for a company or influencer to use the hashtag to make a business related announcement among COVID? So I would say that yes, and Twitter has actually said, you know, any business that is looking to advertise on their platform about something related to COVID, this is something that they're not allowing, they're disallowing. I think that you really have to be careful to, you know, not use it to leverage. And that's my personal opinion, but I wanted to throw it out there, you know, from an influencer perspective, from a communications perspective, you've got to be careful about kind of hitching your bandwagon. It has to be right and it has to be related. But from an influencer perspective, are you guys steering clear of the hashtag or how are you advising?
Yeah, I feel like if you were partnering with, you know, WHO or CDC or something, you might have a good story there. But we're getting so inundated with fake news. So I would caution against it, but I'm just looking it up now. On Instagram, there's 4.9 million hashtags of coronavirus. And then it pops up with this little screen saying, are you looking for actual information? Here's canada.ca. And so I feel like Instagram's kind of trying to push you away from that as well. And since there is 4.9 million hashtags being used, 4.9 people using that particular hashtag, I don't think that you're going to find the leverage because that's a big space now. You know, it's made that jump and now you're competing with 4.9 million other posts. So I don't think that you would really get the leverage you're looking for anyway.
Great. Do we have time for one more, Steph, or we're gonna Steph,
Sorry, I was muted. Shannon, before we say thank you, do you want to just give us a quick summary of what what you do and maybe a little bit about your master's and
Yeah.
yeah, that would be.
Oh, thank you so much. That's a great thing that you're asking. So I did my Master's of Communications Management at McMaster University, and for my thesis, I looked at the relationship between influencers and communicators, and I found out that we're doing it kind of wrong in a lot of ways, and that we're kind of putting it kind of also the job function of it, sorting it into the job in a way that maybe isn't the best way. So what my company Influencer Logic does is I come in and I educate in-stream communications professionals and their offices on how to have these relationships effectively. And I also work with you guys on strategy creation for influencers. So if you've never worked with influencers before, I can help with that. If you are in stream working with influencers and things maybe aren't going so well, I can come in and be that on-call resource. So that's what we do. And I think you guys are going to get a little discount. So, and it says bring the conference to your office, but of course, happy to bring it to a Zoom call as well. I'm hoping to be the first professor in Canada to teach a course all about influencers, which will hopefully be next fall at Humber College. And I'm really positioning it and working with kind of the PR side of the communications coin. As earned media is declining, they kind of stand to sort of find an opportunity in this in terms of using their skill sets and relationship building, this is what it's all about. So if that sounds like your business, I'd be happy to come and help walk you guys through that. So that's about it.
Thanks, Shannon. That's great. And we have a little poll up. So if everybody could head over and just fill out that poll, we'd be interested to see the results there. And then Christina, if you have that offer from Shannon ready to go.
Yeah, so check out your inboxes shortly. So you're going to see a special offer from Shannon. So thank you for that, Shannon. And you guys can reach out to her directly if you're interested, but it'll be 150. Shannon, help me if I'm making a mistake. 150 off of sessions.
So it's $150 off any session with me. Typically, if I'm doing a kind of a professional development day, it's a 3 hours. So I put the price there for the 3 hours, but just contact me and I'm happy to prepare a quote for you. And I'm happy to do it digitally while we're all, isolating.
There you go. Here's some of the poll results too. So thank you to everyone who participated, but seeing kind of a little bit of a split on people who've used influencers or not. Definitely people think 90% of people think that influencers can help lead to more conversions. So thanks, ladies. I think you've drilled that point home today. And some split in terms of using influencers best to kind of sell products, services, or potentially both. So awesome learning from all of you. I see there's a question about from Megan about getting her cat started on TikTok. So Kaylee, I'll have to send you Megan's email address so that you can give her some tips.
So I think we have a couple of giveaways we want to do right now. We have a CIPR competitive analysis. So Christina, why don't you go ahead and do that?
Yeah, so Steph, I dropped the ball on announcing this one, but I did talk to Kaylin and Lily, who have picked a winner for our modern wellness package. Okay. So we were behind the scenes thinking about, you guys were talking a lot about self-care at the beginning. I've been following Jasmine's themes of the day. I'm going to try to start doing them too, Jazz. We thought, what a better way to kind of reward ourselves afterwards. So Jill from Modern Wellness, it's a spa out in Canmore, is giving away a VIP kind of experience. So he's going to do a special one-on-one experience with the winner and a friend or friends. And Kaylin, who is our winner?
Sarah Gray.
Woohoo!
Woohoo!
Sarah.
Nice.
Thank you for the question as well, Sarah.
And thank you guys so much as influencers. I hate that it says demote you to an attendee. I feel like it should promote you to an attendee. But thank you guys again. As Steph's kind of introducing our next speaker, I'm going to do some playing with buttons here. But thank you to all of you again. I loved being able to join you in your homes today.
Thank you, Christina.
Thanks.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thanks, Rachel.
Bye.
Thanks,
So
Jasmine.
nice
Thanks,
to see you
Shannon.
all.